Global Church family. Welcome to the ongoing conversation about international missions at Fellowship Bible Church, where you get a front row seat to hear what God is continually doing to establish His church around the world. My name is Emma Kate, and I'm your host for today. And today we are joined by one of our mission pastors, Jim Poole, and Elder Mike Thomas to discuss their recent trip to visit our Global Church partners in Donna, Texas. So thank you guys so much for being here today and being willing to share about your trip. So Mike, I'll come your way first.
Sure.
Donna, Texas, that is here in the United States, but it is someone that we work with. And so can you kind of explain a little bit of our history with the church there?
Donna, Texas is barely here in the United States. Yes, it is a border town close to it, down in southern Texas. So almost to the ocean, almost to the Gulf. We got introduced to them through a missionary that we used to work with, Wilson Campoverde, back in the day. And back in the early to mid to late 90s is when we got introduced to them. And we, as a church, have visited there many times, helped with their church building many times, sent crews down to work on the building itself, but we've also gone down there and taught and have had many of the people up here for retreats in the past. So it's been a long history, a very enjoyable, very good history with them.
Gotcha. Okay. And so then, Jim, what was then the purpose of this most recent trip? Why did you and Mike head down there?
Yeah, I'll add a little bit to the history as well.
Perfect.
I remember it was probably like 30 years ago when, time goes by fast. Mm-hmm. So like Mike Lukens was the youth pastor here.
Okay.
And so this was, like Mike said, we would take trips down there. So Mike and myself and another good friend of ours that was actually intern here back then, his name was John. And we all went down there, took a group of youth and helped them work on their church and did some construction type stuff at their church. And actually that was actually it was the first missions trip that I ever took with FBC.
Wow.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm 52 now, so at 22. Yeah, about that time. So, and then we went down there to do like a vacation Bible school type thing with the kids. And so part of our team peeled off to go do this stuff with the kids, which was what we had planned on doing. And then part of our team kind of didn't really have anything to do while the rest of the team went to go do this stuff with the kids, just in terms of the ratio with adults and kids, that type of thing. So for somehow or another, like my friend John and I were the ones that I'm not sure, weren't necessarily doing anything.
Okay.
And so the adults that were there, they said, hey, can you guys teach us anything? Can you have a Bible study with us?
Oh.
Not prepared, totally ill-prepared, nothing to say, but it was like they were expecting not only for something for the kids, but also there to be something with the adults. And so anyways, for me, it's a super special place because it's, the history there with myself is like it's my first trip with FBC.
Yeah.
That I tried to teach the Bible, even though
Okay.
I'm sure I wasn't really sure what I was talking about. Ill prepared and 22 years old, but anyways, it was fun.
Yeah, and man, look how far God has brought you 30 years later to be able to go back, and I'm sure be much more prepared when you went on this trip.
Yeah.
Much more prepared, yes.
Yeah, much more prepared. So
So
what did you ask me? I can't
So
remember now.
what was then the purpose of this specific trip?
Okay, yeah. So Mike and I, we went down there a week and a half ago. Maybe farther now that by the time this is released. Mm-hmm. We hadn't been down there in a while.
Okay. When was the last time, do you think?
It had been before COVID.
Oh, okay.
I think 5 or 6 years.
Okay, wow.
We were trying to rack our brains on our way down there, and then when we were there with the church, we were trying to figure out. It had been a long time.
Okay.
And we keep in touch with Oscar and Stella. Mm-hmm. Oscar is the pastor down there, and his wife's name is Stella, and he's been the pastor for a long time. And so we would talk with them on the phone and things like that. But we just wanted to be together in person. You
Yeah,
know, obviously you can have, some continuation of relationships via phone or Zoom, whatever, but eventually you just need to be together in person.
Right.
And so it had been such a long time since we had been down there. We just wanted to go and spend time together with them in person. And then also study together, because that's what we do when we take trips. We just spend time in the Word together. But then also we wanted to just talk about the church. And
their church specifically.
Their church, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, their church and what's happening in their church and the state of their church and the future of their church and things like that. Yes, so that's why we went.
Gotcha. And so then, Mike, as you guys are meeting with them, how is the church in Donna, Texas doing? What's going on there with them? What did you learn from this trip?
Yeah, I was really encouraged and pleased. I think, Jim, maybe you had been there more recently than I have. I forget. But I haven't seen some of these folks since they were young adults or even teenagers. But now there's like 3 generations that are at the church. And particularly that middle generation, I was just really impressed with their closeness in their fellowship with the Lord, their settledness in Him. Doesn't mean that life is all going easy or anything. They've told us stories where how it's not, but they are more at rest in Christ than I remember them being in the past. So I was very encouraged.
That's great. And so then, Jim, what did you guys study with them? And did you just meet with Stella and Oscar, or did you meet with other leaders of the church? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, so Friday night, we met with 8 people, Oscar and Stella, and then 2 older gentlemen, Manuel and Octavio, and then 2 younger couples. And to us, that was really encouraging because it wasn't just, in a sense, the old guard that came out for the study on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But so right out of the gate, I was encouraged because there were 2 younger couples, so 4 younger folks.
And there would have been a 3rd younger couple if he hadn't been so sick with a fever.
That's right. Yeah.
So
we were really encouraged by that because that speaks to the future of the church. That it wasn't just the old guard that came out. Yeah. So we met Friday night for a couple hours, and then we met Saturday morning, and then Saturday afternoon for 2 or 3 hours each, and then. There was church Sunday morning, and then they wanted to keep studying again on Sunday afternoon. And so again, it showed their spiritual hunger, spiritual interest. And so because it had been a long time since we had been down there, we took basically the whole weekend to walk through the meta-narrative.
Okay.
And the 4 stages of the meta-narrative. And Mike kicked us off and Friday night with the planning stage, and then you wrapped everything up on Sunday afternoon with the.
You made me the bookends
with the results. So yeah. So it was good. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So then what is the follow-up? So you go down there, you're sharing the meta-narrative with them. What are, I guess, the next steps? Do they have curriculum that we've sent them? Or was that just kind of like encourage them, we're just coming to check in, but I guess where do we go from here?
Yeah.
You looking at me?
I'm trying to say who's going to answer the question. So there has been some follow-up.
Okay.
Stella did reach out to me this week and said, "Hey, can you send us some English lessons of knowing God?"
Okay.
Which was super cool. That was great. And again, that was just indication that the teaching that we had, the fellowship and the word that we had was and really impactful to them. And they Mike, you can speak to this too, but they were just really hungry and were just really enjoying the fellowship in the Word.
Okay.
And Saturday, when we finished, when the session was over, we all just kind of sat there, like.
That's right. It was a long silence in all of God.
Mm-hmm.
It was really, really special.
Okay. That's awesome.
Like nobody wanted to leave. Nobody wanted the time to end. They were just like, it was really a neat time of just being together as a body in the Word, just enjoying that fellowship in the Word together. And it was the same thing Sunday afternoon when we finished. And we had church till noon. We had a quick lunch, and then we got right back at it at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
And this is on their request.
Yeah.
And we had talked that, study Friday night, all day Saturday, do church Sunday. These folks are going to be spent.
Right.
We weren't sure what we were going to do Sunday afternoon. We actually had, batted around different ideas of maybe even trying to go see John and Ann Morrison. We're down in Texas. Just make but we figured they'd be tired, giving up a lot of their weekend.
Right.
They got some things they need to catch up on because they've given us all their weekend.
Yeah.
But they said, no, we want to keep studying.
Yeah,
we want to keep being together. And so we're like, okay. Well, we just took that from the Lord, and we just kept going. And then when that was Sunday afternoon, when Mike wrapped everything up for us, it was a similar thing when we were done. That it was special. Yeah. Not wanting it to end, and they invited us back.
Okay.
And so.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
You
never want to be not invited back. But
Yeah.
They genuinely care for us, and it's special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how encouraging. I mean, I remember the first time I heard the meta-narrative taught through, and I was just sitting there, again, just that moment of being in awe of all God does, and that perspective shift of, okay, this is not about me at all. This is all about Him and His greatness and His love and His power and ultimately His grace. So I think just the opportunity that you guys had to go and to share that with people and just to all sit in that together. I mean, I don't think there are many things in life that are even better than that moment. Just rejoicing together with who God is and how great He is. And so that's awesome, and just something that we as Fellowship Bible Church can continue to pray for the church in Donna, Texas, to grow in that. But when you were there, are there any specific prayer requests, needs, Mike, did people share with you that we as a church body here in Winchester can be praying for them?
Yeah, certainly as this is Christ's church, the Donna Church belongs to Jesus Christ. So they are looking to Him in, like we have been in the past number of years, for leadership succession. Oscar and Stella and the older people there realize that this isn't going to go on forever. It's not tomorrow or any means like that, but who is God leading to become the leaders of the church in the future? And so they are all looking to God for that and trusting God for that. And we would want to continue to pray with them that God would raise up, identify the leadership there for the future. The other things that they have voiced interest in, where the church building has been out in the boonies in one sense, surrounded by fields, so kind of remote. But as new construction is going on, there's now a housing development across the road, then maybe even a little further north. And we got to see, there was a new couple that came on Sunday for the service and got to talking with them, and they said, yeah, we were driving by and saw that this was a church, and we thought, well, let's go and find out about this church, because they were church hunting. And so that also is something that we can continue to pray with them is that God would bring to them and through them the people that will be the church in that community. So,
Gotcha. Yeah. Jim, is there any other prayer requests that you notice that you would like to add that we can be praying for the Donna Church?
Yeah, I think Mike really hits it on the head. Just the up and coming leaders, they're already leading to certain degrees, but like we have been more in the past, but yet still are also now in a time of transition. That's really an important thing for them, and we talked about that with them, and had some good conversations. Just got it out on the table. Where are things at? What conversations are you having? So just pray for them in terms of what's next for them and who's going to take some some of those roles. And then I think Mike, you nailed it as well. That just for God to bring those to the church that He wants to be. At the church there in terms of its numerical growth,
right.
To bring the hungry hearts and the neighborhood that Mike's referring to, they've had a big problem with their building flooding through the years.
Oh.
And it sits down off of the road a little bit.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And so it has, I don't know how many times that building is flooded. And but that neighborhood, they said, has helped. The state did some work to help with the neighborhood, and so now the water runoff is different.
Okay.
And so they haven't had the church flood in a while. And so that would be a great praise if this
awesome.
flooding issue with the church that they've been dealing with for decades
Right.
would be done. And they don't have to keep redoing the flooring and redoing the drywall and just that type of stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So that'd be a prayer request that that the flooding that seems to be done on their property, which actually goes into the building, would actually be done.
Right.
Kind of once and for all, and they could, because it was a concrete floor, and I think they're just reluctant to redo the floor again because they do it, floods 3-4 years later.
Right.
Rip it up, redo it. They're just like, we're done doing the floor. But if they had a long time where there's no flood, then they'd be confident. Okay, let's put something back there with this concrete floor. So that would be really nice if God would see fit that. The floods would be done in their building. So
Yeah. Well, that would be good. And then Mike mentioned that you guys got invited back. So are there any definite plans, or is that just kind of a wait and see what the Lord opens up for you guys to go back to Donna, Texas?
I mean, Jim and Scott are in charge of the schedule, and I think at this point that only goes out maybe not even to the end of this year. So no specific plans have been made.
Right.
But
that's right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're pretty full till June. We get through the family camp in June, and then, but when we asked them when they would like for us to come back, they mentioned July. So whether or not we go back in July, that's yet to be determined. But they said, "Well, you guys come back," and so the next question was, "Well, when would you like us to come back?" And we were hoping they wouldn't say like. Well, we kind of were hoping that they'd say sooner, but knowing that we couldn't get there.
Right.
But they said July, and which is good because we couldn't get there.
Yeah.
We couldn't get back there before July anyway.
Right.
It's too busy right now.
Right.
But so maybe July.
Okay, gotcha. And continuation based off the teachings that you guys just did. Awesome. That's great. Well, thank you guys so much for being here and giving just a quick little update. And so we've mentioned a lot of things today. Again, we talked about the meta-narrative and knowing God. And I just want to throw this out to our listeners. If you're not familiar with those concepts, the good news is we have podcasts that will be coming out in the future discussing those things. But again, we have the Global Missions team has the curriculum from everything that they teach is in the second floor stairwell. So I highly encourage you to go look there. But if you aren't able to come in person, all of that is available online, and we'll include links to all those teachings in the description. So thanks again again for being here. And if you guys have any questions, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Send your thoughts or requests, and you can do that at fbcva.org/podcast, and write us your notes and comments. And if you know of anyone who hasn't checked out this podcast, remind them that they can follow us on YouTube or wherever they get their podcasts. We also have 2 other podcasts, which are Sermon Spotlight and Fellowship Family, which are all located on the same platform. So thank you again so much for watching and listening. And remember that it is Christ who is continually building his church until we all attain to the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God.
Amen.